Okay, now we just make a start. We've got this test. Complete the form below. Now there is going to be a form and you will have to complete that form. So the question type is form completion, right? And this sentence will always tell you about the type of questions that you are solving. Next they say, write one word and or a number. So it's pretty normal. One word and or a number. Answer may contain a word with number, without number, or only number. Answer can be like 5 glasses. Answer can be 5. Answer can be glasses. So it's going to be like this. Now, after this initial information, and you need to follow that carefully. If it is one word and or a number and you write 2 words, your answer is wrong. If they say no more than 2 words, no more than 2 words means minimum 1 word, maximum 2 words. No more than 3 means minimum 1 word, maximum 3 words. Some students say no more than 3 means you must write 3 words. No, it's not that, okay? Now, they say Wayside Camera Club membership form. Now, just imagine a camera club. What can be a camera club? Where you go and learn photography. A club where you go and learn about photography, that is a camera club. Now, what will happen? One person would say, I want to get membership. And the other person will give information. For example, I want to join the club, how much is the fee, what are the packages, which camera is required, what equipment I have to bring from my home, how long is the course, and all that. So if you switch on your imagination that one person wants to join a camera club and they will have a dialogue, you can understand the things better. So in IELTS listening, your visualization or your imagination will actually help you understand the audio. Now, let's see. Name already written, there is no question. And when you read the questions, don't read extra information, but just look at that. Name given, email address given. Now, in the audio, when they are going to talk about name and email address, you will not listen very carefully. Why? Because your question is not related to that. But you will actually monitor that. Now they have reached the name. Now they are talking about email address. And then they say home address. Now question number 1. When they say, okay, and what's your home address, please? Now be alert. My answer is about to come. So don't listen to all the audio attentively. If you listen to all the audio attentively, sometimes you may lose your concentration. You should know when to be like this and when to be like this. Right? Yeah. Now, 52 is already written dash street. What is dash street? It's going to be the name of the street. So whatever the name is, and if the name is usual name, for example, if they say John Street, or they say Rose Street, or they say Daffodil Street, then they will not spell it. But if the name is unusual, then they will spell it for you, and when they spell it, you need to write it immediately. Okay, they will not repeat the spelling. In past few tests, they used to repeat the spelling, but now they don't. Okay, so you need to write it immediately. Now, let's make a start.
Part 1. Part 1. You will hear a man talking to the coordinator of a photography club.
Hello, Wayside Camera Club. Breeder speaking.
Oh, hello. My name's Dan, and I'd like to join your club.
That's great, Dan. We have an application form. Would you like to complete it over the phone? Then you can ask any questions you might have.
Oh, yes, thanks.
Okay. So, what's your family name?
It's Green. Dan Green.
So, can I take your email address?
Yes, it's dan1068@market.com.
Thanks. And what about your home address?
Well, I'm about 10 miles away from your club in Peacetown. I live in a house there.
Okay. So what's the house number and street?
It's 52 Marrowfield Street.
Is that MARROWFIELD?
That's right.
Okay, that's right. MARROWFIELD. And you know it's one word only. So if you write marrow, field, wrong answer. It should be written together. And even if you have a doubt that is it one or two, for one word only join the words. With hyphen, without hyphen, that's fine, no problem. So question number 1, correct answer is Marrow Field. Now, we've got question number 2, heard about us. In IELTS, whenever they say heard about us, listened about us, it means source of information. Heard about us. Now, heard about us from a. Now, it can be from a radio, from a newspaper, from a friend, from someone. So, who told him about the club? If he says, my friend recommended your club to me. So, from a friend. If he says, my uncle was your member, so he strongly recommended this club to me. Answer is uncle. Right? So, you need to listen carefully, whoever. And they may deny. For example, my friend had joined your club, but he never told me about that. And one day, I was reading newspaper, there I learned about your club. Answer is newspaper. So just listen carefully, don't write your answer blindly. Whatever comes in newspaper, newspaper, good. No, not like this, okay? Question number 2. Let's go on.
And that's Peacetown, you said.
Uh-huh.
So, how did you hear about our club? Did you look on the internet?
I usually do that, but this time, well, I was talking to a relative the other day and he suggested it.
Oh, is he a member too?
He belongs to another club, but he'd heard good things about yours.
Okay.
Okay, so relative. First he said internet, he said no, relative, and he talked about your club, so answer is relative. Now, reasons for joining, and there are 2 reasons. One reason is given, one reason is missing. The first reason is to enter competitions. He wants to enter photography competitions, that's why he's joining. Now, to means, and enter means, enter is a verb. So it means for question number 3, answer is going to start with, answer is going to be a verb. For example, to enter competitions. Second, to win, to participate, to something like that, okay? Now listen carefully, and after entering competition, it's the second thing, and verb will be in first form because after to we use verb without, first form of the verb.
So, what do you hope to get from joining?
Well, one thing that really interests me is the competitions that you have. I enjoy entering those.
Right. Anything else?
Well, I also like to socialize with other photographers.
That's great.
I also like to socialize. Now, to is a very good clue. To socialize. One thing is, and then second he said, I also like. Also means second thing, right? So, answer is socialize. Now, you may write socialize with S or with Z because in IELTS they accept both British and American spelling. Socialize, SE or ZE, both ways it's right. Next, type of membership. And then they have written £30 in bracket. This £30 is very important. They may tell you one membership that will cost £45. Will that be your answer? No. They may tell you another membership which will cost £15. That will not be your answer. So the type of membership which costs £30 will be your answer. So they will name the membership. For example, if they say, we have a diamond membership which will cost you £100. Is that the answer? No. Then we also have golden membership or gold membership which will cost you £50. And if you are a student and you cannot afford that much, then you can have our silver membership. It's only £30. Answer is silver. So they talk like this. I mean, part 1 is designed like this all the time. So let's see.
So, what type of membership would you like?
What are the options?
It's £30 a year for full membership or £20 a year if you're an associate.
I think I'll go for the full membership then.
That's a good idea because you can't vote in meetings with an associate membership.
Okay, associate membership is £15 and full membership is £30. So answer is, that's it, only full, all right? Don't write any extra word with right answer. If you write a full or the full on your answer sheet, your answer will be wrong. Okay, let's go on. Questions 5 to 10. Complete the table below. Write no more than Now there is no number, and no more than 2 means maximum 2. Minimum 1. Good. Photography competitions. Now we have a table. So in table we've got different columns and all that. They are going to talk about photography competitions, and you can see there are 3 columns. So it means they are 3 rows actually. We call it row and this is column. Who knows mathematics? This is column and this is row. Yeah. So there are 3 rows, and the tables, they always go row by row. Like first, second, third. Then next one, first, second, third. Now they say here, title of competition, and then there are inverted commas. Whenever there is anything in inverted commas in IELTS, for that they say it is called, it is named, it is titled, right? Called, named, titled, they commonly call it. So whatever the name of the competition is, that will be your answer. Okay, now play the audio. Say, first of all, I participated in a competition. It is called, or the name was, right? Or it was titled, like that. Okay.
If I could just find out a bit more about you.
Okay.
So, you said you wanted to compete. Have you ever won any photography competitions?
Not yet, but I have entered 3 in the past.
Oh, that's interesting. So why don't you tell me something about those? Let's start with the first one.
Well, the theme was entitled Domestic Life.
I see.
The theme was entitled Domestic Life. Well done. And when you transfer your answer to the answer sheet, you don't need to write any punctuation mark. Just write domestic life. Good. Okay. After that, the audio will continue. Scene in the home and all that. Next, when they say the second was beautiful sunsets, now you will be alert, because answer will come after that. Beautiful sunset is the second competition. Now, instructions. Scene must show some means the picture you take. What's the theme? Beautiful sunset. It means it's going to be a picture of sunset. So the picture or scene must show some means there must be something in the picture. For example, sun, because if it is beautiful sunset, so there must be sun in the photo or anything like that. So answer is going to be a natural object. As they are talking about beautiful sunset, there may be sunset, or they say there must be some birds, right? And one more thing, as they've written must show some. Some means answer must be plural. Some birds, some sparrows, some parrots, some, and something like that. So whatever is plural. And one more thing, must show. For must show, they can use it is necessary to have. There must be. It is important, right? Or they say the birds must be shown in this picture. Birds must be shown means scene must show birds, right?
So it had to be something related to the home?
Yeah. I chose to take a photo of a family sitting round the dinner table having a meal. And, I didn't win, but I did get some feedback.
Oh, what did the judges say?
That it was too busy as a picture.
Aha. So it was the composition of the picture that they criticised?
That's right. And once they'd told me that, I could see my mistake.
So what was the theme of the second composition?
Well, my university was on the coast, and that area gets a lot of beautiful sunsets. So that was the theme.
Oh, sunsets. That's a great theme.
Yes, the instructions were to capture the clouds as well. It couldn't just be blue sky and a setting sun.
Sure, because they give you all those amazing pinks and purples.
Yeah.
Okay, the instructions were to capture the clouds, not only sky and sun. So you cannot even say grammatically if you say some sky. Sky is uncountable, right? Yeah, we say 7 skies as God created. But anyways, so correct answer is clouds. And one thing, now clouds must be plural. If you write some cloud, it's not clear. So it should be clouds. Let's go on. The dash was wrong. Now something about that picture of sunset, there was something wrong. Underline was wrong. Now, for was wrong, they may use wasn't right. When we say it wasn't right, it means it was wrong. So something was not right. It was not correct. Okay, so the synonym of wrong will tell you the answer.
And I thought I'd done that well, but the feedback was that I should have waited a bit longer to get the shot.
I see. So the timing wasn't right.
Yes, I took it too soon, basically.
The timing wasn't right. Try to understand. The timing wasn't right means timing was wrong. Wasn't right means was wrong. What isn't right means it's wrong. Please listen again.
And I thought I'd done that well, but the feedback was that I should have waited a bit longer to get the shot.
I see. So the timing wasn't right.
Yes, I took it too soon, basically.
The timing wasn't right. I took it too soon. So answer is timing. Question number 8. It's the title of third competition. First is domestic life. Second is beautiful sunsets. Now the third competition. And again, titled, entitled, named, called, and all that.
And then the third competition I entered was called Animal Magic.
Well, that's a difficult subject.
I know.
The third competition I entered was called Animal Magic. Animal Magic. Good. Okay, question number 9. Scene must show. Again, scene must show something. The title is Animal Magic. So scene must show animals. Scene must show something like that, okay?
I had to take hundreds of shots.
I'm sure, because animals move all the time.
That's what we had to show. There had to be some movement in the scene.
There had to be some movements in the scene. What does that mean? Scene must show movements. Right? Movements. Yeah. Scene must show movements, and there has to be some movements in the scene. Listen to it again.
I had to take hundreds of shots.
I'm sure, because animals move all the time.
That's what we had to show. There had to be some movement in the scene.
Okay, there had to be some movements in the scene. Next, the photographer was 2. Underline 2, T-O-O-2. In IELTS, whenever you see 2 in part 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever, for 2 they can use very. For example, a photograph was 2. Alright, if I make it like this, photograph was too big. Right? Too big. For example, answer is big. For that, they can say the photograph was too big. The photograph was very big. The photograph was extremely big. The photograph was a bit bigger. A bit, very, extremely, and all that. Okay? So let's see what happened to the photograph.
I got a great shot of a fox in the end, but I took it at night and... well, I suspected that it was a bit dark, which is what I was told.
Okay, it was a bit dark. And by the way, for photograph, he has used the word it. This is called referencing. They always do it. First, they will say the photograph I took, it was a bit dark. It means photograph. And answer is dark, not dark. Dark, yeah. Yeah, dark, chippas. Okay, now get ready for real fun. Fun with multiple choice questions. Right? Life is not always a bed of roses. And we've got double multiple choice in part 2. So be active and be alert. Siddhi ho jao un sare. Anyways, choose 2 letters. Choose 2 letters mean it's double multiple choice. Which 2 opinions, underline 2 opinions, about Luddites? Now, you don't know what Luddites said, don't worry about that, okay? Which 2 opinions about Luddites do the students express? Now, 2 opinion about Luddites, students express. Okay, now they've given you 5 opinions. Sorry, I've reached directly to part 3. Wow, what a long jump. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, let's come. I was too emotional. So, part 2, 11 to 20. Choose two letters A to E. Which two warnings does Dan give? Now, this Dan is not English Dan, it's Punjabi Dan. That's why this Dan is giving warning. Okay, no Dan. In Urdu we call it Dayan, but in Punjabi we call it Dan. So Dan is giving two warnings, right? What are those warnings? About picking mushrooms. Now what's the topic? The topic is mushroom picking. Like, you go in the fields and you pick mushrooms and all that, okay? Yeah. So he gives two warnings. Okay, now listen, what will happen? Out of 5, he is going to talk about 2 warnings positively and 3 warnings will be denied. For example, okay, option A, don't pick more than 1 variety of mushrooms at a time. Now, if in the audio says, well, you are not allowed to pick more than 1 variety of mushrooms at a time, then this is the right answer. It's a warning. And if he says, you can pick as many mushrooms as you want from different varieties, we don't mind, then this is not the answer. So whatever is warning, that will be your answer. Whatever is allowed, there is no problem with that, that will not be your answer. Okay, option B, don't pick mushrooms near busy roads. If he says, well, some of the mushrooms are near the busy roads, so don't even think of picking them. It can be dangerous. Then this is the answer. But if he says, some of the mushrooms are near busy road, when you are picking them, please be extra careful. Then this is not the warning. See, 2 warnings he gives. Don't eat mushrooms given to you. If he says, don't eat every mushroom if it is given by your friend or relative, then this is the right answer. And if he says, you can eat mushrooms given by anyone, so it's not. So whatever is warning, that will be the answer. And whatever is allowed, no problem, that will not be the answer. Option D, don't eat mushrooms while picking them. It's not you pick one and, like, I saw a person who he was picking mulberry, shetut, and he was like, so he's just eating directly. You should wash and all that. So if you don't need to eat while picking, then this is the right answer. And if he says, well, you can have the fresh taste of a mushroom right after you pick it. So I would recommend, as you pick it, you should take a bite. Got it? They will speak oppositely, negatively, and all that. And don't pick old mushrooms, right? If they are old or they are rotten or anything like that. So it's this. Now I play the audio. The first thing is you need to catch the option which is being discussed. Then you need to decide tick or cross, because out of 5, 2 options will be ticked and 3 options should be crossed, right? And elimination means leaving out. Elimination is the best technique for that. Okay, so let's make a start.
Part 2. You will hear an expert on picking wild mushrooms called Dan talking on the radio.
This evening, we're delighted to welcome Dan Beagle, who's just written a book on looking for and finding food in the wild. He's going to tell us everything we need to know about picking wild mushrooms.
Thank you very much. Well, I need to start by talking about safety. You really need to know what you're doing because some mushrooms are extremely poisonous. Having said that, once you know what to look for, it's really worth doing for the amazing variety of mushrooms available, which you can't get in the shops. But of course, you have to be very careful, and that's why I always say you should never consume mushrooms picked by friends or neighbours. Always remember that some poisonous mushrooms look very similar to edible ones, and it's easy for people to get confused. The other thing to avoid is mushrooms growing beside busy roads, for obvious reasons. But nothing beats the taste of freshly picked mushrooms. Don't forget that the ones in the shops are often several days old and past their best.
Okay, now the correct answers. C and E. Okay, good. Don't pick old mushrooms. Now, the correct answer is option B. B for boy. Don't pick mushrooms near busy roads. And second correct answer is option C. That is, don't eat mushrooms given to you. Now, please listen to it again.
Part 2. You will hear an expert on picking wild mushrooms called Dan talking on the radio.
This evening, we're delighted to welcome Dan Beagle, who's just written a book on looking for and finding food in the wild. He's going to tell us everything we need to know about picking wild mushrooms.
Or neighbours.
Who's just written a book on looking for and finding food in the wild. He's going to tell us everything we need to know about picking wild mushrooms.
Thank you very much. Well, I need to start by talking about safety. You really need to know what you're doing because some mushrooms are extremely poisonous. Having said that, once you know what to look for, it's really worth doing for the amazing variety of mushrooms available, which you can't get in the shops.
Okay, now variety of mushrooms available, which you can get in the shops. Now they are available in the shops. So don't pick more than one variety. He didn't say that. He said variety is available in the shops. The context is not this. So A is the wrong answer. Now let's move on to option C.
But of course, you have to be very careful. And that's why I always say you should never consume mushrooms picked by friends or neighbours.
You should never consume a mushroom picked by a friend or neighbor. Consume means eat. Friend or neighbor means given to you. So option C is the first right answer. Don't eat mushrooms given to you. Now please come to option B.
Always remember that some poisonous mushrooms look very similar to edible ones, and it's easy for people to get confused. The other thing to avoid is mushrooms growing beside busy roads.
The other thing to avoid means warning, right? Mushrooms growing busy roads. So B is the second right answer. All good? Okay, now let's see why E is wrong. Some of you selected that.
For obvious reasons. But nothing beats the taste of freshly picked mushrooms. Don't forget that the ones in...
Okay, now nothing beats the taste of freshly picked mushroom. Don't eat mushroom while picking them. He said nothing beats the taste of freshly picked. It means you can eat that. So that's the wrong option, okay? And now, don't pick old mushrooms.
The shops. The other thing to avoid is mushrooms growing beside busy roads, for obvious reasons. But nothing beats the taste of freshly picked mushrooms. Don't forget that the ones in the shops are often several days old.
Ones in the shop. Ones mean mushrooms. Ones. O-N-E-S. Ones in the shop are several days old. So don't pick old mushrooms. No. He's saying the mushrooms in the shop, they are old actually. So context is different. Now we've got questions 13 and 14. Which two ideas about wild mushrooms does Dan say are correct? Out of 5, 2 ideas about mushrooms, they are correct. Right? So underline 2 ideas. Wild mushrooms and correct. And only one person is talking, he is Dan, so we don't need to worry about that. 2 ideas and wild mushrooms and correct. Mushrooms should always be peeled before eating. Now if he says you may peel mushrooms but you can eat without peeling as well, it means this is not the right answer. And if he says mushrooms must be peeled before eating, don't eat the peel of mushroom, then this can be the right one, okay? Second, mushrooms eaten by animals may be unsafe. If he says, don't eat a mushroom because a cat is eating that mushroom, it means for cat it can be suitable, but you are a human, so it cannot be suitable. So, mushrooms eaten by animals may be unsafe. But if he says, if any animal is eating a mushroom, it means it is safe for human consumption, so you can eat that. right? So just you need to see which ideas are correct and which ideas are incorrect. Cooking destroys toxins in mushrooms. Now, if he says cooking destroys toxins, this is the right idea. But if he says there is a common belief that cooking destroys toxins in mushrooms, but let me tell you as an expert, this doesn't happen. So this is wrong. Question is ideas which are correct. Ideas which are correct, they will not be our answer. Option D, brightly colored mushrooms can be edible. Edible means suitable for human consumption. So if he says brightly colored mushrooms are edible, then this is the right answer. But if he says whether the color is bright or dark, they can be edible, then this is not the right answer. And E, all poisonous mushrooms have a bad smell. If he says all the poisonous mushrooms, they have a bad smell, then this is right. But if he says there are some mushrooms which do not even smell, but they are poisonous, so then this is not. So you need to see which ideas are correct according to Dan. Yes.
There are certain ideas about wild mushrooms that it's important to be aware of. Don't listen to people who tell you that it's only okay to eat mushrooms that are pale or dull. This is completely untrue. Some edible mushrooms are bright red, for example. Personally, I prefer mushrooms cooked, but it won't do you any harm to eat them uncooked in salads. It's not necessary to peel them. Another thing you should remember is that you can't tell if a mushroom is safe to eat by its smell. Some of the most deadly mushrooms have no smell and taste quite nice, apparently. Finally, just because deer or squirrels eat a particular mushroom doesn't mean that you can.
So, option C and option. Okay, correct answer is option B for boy and D for doctor. Now I tell you why. I'll play the audio again. We'll just listen to it one by one and then we see what is the right answer. Okay, let's see.
There are certain ideas about wild mushrooms that it's important to be aware of. Don't listen to people who tell you that it's only okay to eat mushrooms that are pale or...
Okay, don't listen to people who say it's okay to eat mushrooms that are pale. Here, brightly colored. So it means don't listen to people. Pale is a dark color, right? Now listen here.
Dull. This is completely untrue. Some edible mushrooms are bright red, for example.
Some edible mushrooms are bright red. So brightly colored mushrooms can be edible, yes. Right? So first correct answer is option D. Now please come to option C.
Personally, I prefer mushrooms cooked, but it won't do you any harm to eat them uncooked.
Okay, personally I prefer to eat them cooked, but he did not talk about toxins. There is no mention of toxins. That's why option C is wrong. Because he didn't mention whether it destroys toxins or not. Now, please come to option A.
In salads, it's not necessary to peel them.
It's not necessary to peel them. What is option A? Mushrooms should always be peeled. In the audio, it's not necessary to peel them. So A is wrong. Now please come to option E. E for elephant.
The thing you should remember is that you can't tell if a mushroom is safe to eat by its smell.
You can't tell if a mushroom is safe to eat by its smell. So all poisonous mushrooms have a bad smell? No. He says you can't tell if a mushroom is safe to eat. Safe to eat means not poisonous. So you cannot tell from smell. So option E, all poisonous mushrooms have a bad smell. He's saying no, you cannot tell from the smell whether it is safe to eat or not. So E is the wrong answer. Now let's move on to option B.
Some of the most deadly mushrooms have no smell and taste quite nice, apparently. Finally, just because deer or squirrels eat a particular mushroom doesn't mean that you can.
Okay, deer or squirrel, what are they? Animals can eat a particular mushroom and you can. So it is not. Mushrooms eaten by animals may be unsafe. Yes, that's what he said. Doesn't mean eaten by squirrel or deer and you can also eat it. It means for animals it can be safe, but human it cannot be safe. So B and D, and you can write these answers in any order: 13, 14, 13B, 14D, or 13D, 14B. Okay, now complexity started in part 2. Usually there is no complexity, but over here we do have that. This is like part 2, questions 15 to 20, and we have 6 multiple choice questions. To understand the core concepts of multiple choice questions, these 6 questions are enough. Now focus, pay attention, see the order and how to find the right answer and how to eliminate the wrong one. Question number 15. What advice does Dan give? Underline advice Dan give about picking mushrooms in parks. So mushroom picking is our topic, and underline in parks. So if you pick a mushroom in the park, like you're going for a morning walk and you see mushroom there, after rain usually there are mushrooms. So what advice does he give? Choose wooded areas. So that park should be in wooded. Wooded means like there are some forests, wooded areas. Option B, don't disturb wildlife. Means if you pick up mushrooms in the park, don't disturb wildlife. Don't disturb. And option C, get there early. Like if you want to pick a mushroom in the park, you need to go there early because otherwise someone else will pick that mushroom instead of you. So what is his advice? If you want to pick mushroom in the park, right? Let's see. The topic is so strange, like mushroom picking and all that. But for them it's fun, mushroom picking, yeah? Okay.
Of course, mushroom picking is associated with the countryside. But if you haven't got a car, your local park can be a great place to start. There are usually a range of habitats where mushrooms grow, such as playing fields and wooded areas. But you need to be there first thing in the morning, as there's likely to be a lot of competition. Not just from people, but wildlife too. The deer often get the best mushrooms in my local park.
Okay, A, B, C. C, well done. For wildlife, he didn't say don't disturb the wildlife. He said there is competition, not with people, but from deer. They come and eat mushrooms as well. So, correct answer is option C, get there early. And the audio went like A, C, B. First they discussed option A, and for choose wooded areas, he talked about, I play it again, just focus.
Of course, mushroom picking is associated with the countryside. But if you haven't got a car, your local park can be a great place to start. There are usually a range of habitats where mushrooms grow, such as playing fields and wooded areas.
Okay, so there are habitats where mushrooms grow, such as plain fields or wooded areas. But he did not mention that you should choose plain fields or you should choose wooded areas. So both are okay. I mean, he didn't talk about any.
But you need to be there first thing in the morning.
You need to be there first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning means early. Right? You know, you say, I'm going to do this first thing in the morning. Means kal main subah hi subah ye kaam kar lunga. Like that. Okay, so that's the right answer. And
as there's likely to be a lot of competition. Not just from people, but wildlife too.
okay, competition from wildlife. But he doesn't say don't disturb wildlife. Question number 16. Dan says it is a good idea for beginners. Now, if you are a beginner and you want to go for mushroom picking, what should you do? Option A, use a mushroom app. Like there is a mobile app, take a photo of mushroom and app will tell you whether you should eat it or you shouldn't eat it, right? Mushroom app. Option B, join a group. If he says don't go alone, go with a group, go with a team, go with some professional mushroom pickers, something like that, then it is option B. But if he says you can go alone, there is no problem as long as you have an app. So it means option A will be the right answer. Option C, take a reference book. If he says you need to take a reference book about mushrooms and that book will help you and then you can go alone, so then it is going to be C. But if he says book will not help you, if he says even my own book or even this book will not help you, then C is not the right answer. So Dan says it is a good idea. Now, what is Dan's advice for beginners? What should they do? Option A, mushroom app. Option B, join a group. Option C, reference book. Reference book means a book about mushrooms.
If you're a complete beginner, I wouldn't recommend going alone or relying on photos in a book, even the one I've written. There are some really good phone apps for identifying mushrooms, but you can't always rely on getting a good signal in the middle of a wood.
Okay?
If possible, you should go with a group.
All right, you should go with a group. And he said even my own book, it's not going to help you. And for app, he said you can't rely getting signal in the wood. So option E denied, C denied. Correct answer is B. Good. Question number 17. What does Dan say is important for conservation? Now, conservation means to protect. For example, if we say wildlife conservation, it means to protect the wildlife. If it is for plants, species of plants, animals, so conservation means to protect. Okay? What does Dan say is important for conservation? Option A, selecting only fully grown mushrooms. So you should select only fully grown mushrooms. Like, you know, some children, they steal guava from the trees and they pick fully grown or even not grown guavas from there and they throw them on the way and all that. So for conservation, he says select only fully grown mushrooms. The mushrooms which are not grown, you should not pick them. Option A. Option B, limited amount. Now don't, shopper parke, right? Limited amount. Only pick mushrooms which you would like to eat, which you can eat easily. Don't waste them. So limited amount. For that you can say you should only pick a couple of mushrooms which you can eat easily, right? It's that. And option C, avoiding areas where rare mushroom species grow. Now what does it mean? Don't go to the areas where rare mushroom. Now rare mushroom means a mushroom type which are only few left in the world. Rare. This word is important, okay? So, and he says don't go to the area. Now listen, if he says don't pick rare mushrooms and he doesn't talk about area, then C will not be the right answer. But if he says there are some marked areas by the conservation group which are having the rare species of mushrooms, I advise you not to go there. Something like that, okay? Now play the audio, please listen and answer.
Conservation is a really important consideration, and you must follow a few basic rules. You should never pick all the mushrooms in one area. Collect only enough for your own needs. Be very careful that you don't trample on young mushrooms or other plants. And make sure you don't pick any mushrooms that are endangered and protected by law.
Yeah. Correct answer is option C. Well done. Very good. Chup kar jaye. Wrong answer. Okay? Yeah. चोर पकड़ने दिया करें. जो लिखा हुआ ना ऐसे confident. B. केड़ा B? Okay. So correct answer is actually option B, not C. Right? I tell you why. Listen, they talked about rare mushroom, and for rare, they use the word endangered one. But he did not say avoid areas. He only said avoid mushrooms. Means you can go to that area, but you should not pick that mushroom. So the audio went like B, A, C. I play it again.
Conservation is a really important consideration, and you must follow a few basic rules. You should never pick all the mushrooms in one area.
You should never pick all the mushrooms in wild. It means picking a limited amount. You should never pick all means pick a limited amount. B.
Yeah. Collect only enough for your own need.
Okay, collect only enough for your own need. That is option B. Now come to option C.
That you collect only enough for your own needs. Be very careful that you don't trample on young mushrooms or other plants.
Okay, now be careful you don't trample on young mushrooms. Selecting only fully grown mushrooms? No. He says you don't trample. Trample means pair na aaje. On young mushrooms. Young means which are not grown. So, A is not the right answer because he didn't say you should select only fully grown. He said be careful you don't trample on the mushrooms which are young ones. Young means not grown. Now come to option C.
And make sure you don't pick any mushrooms that are endangered. And
Okay, make sure you don't pick any mushroom that are endangered. Endangered means rare. In IELTS, wherever they use the word rare, they use endangered. Wherever they use the word endangered, they use the word rare. Now, he did not say avoiding areas. He said avoid picking mushrooms which are endangered. Okay, let's go on. Question number 18. According to Dan, real Dan, huh? When you don't understand the audio, listening is difficult, then you are angry on the speakers in the audio. Dan, according to Dan, some varieties of wild mushrooms are in decline because, now underline varieties, wild mushroom, decline because. Now what's the reason? Why some varieties of mushrooms are declining? What is the reason? Reason A, huge demand from restaurants. Underline huge demand and restaurants. And if they say, well, the main reason for decline is the demand by restaurants and all that, then it is option A. And if they say they are not demanded by restaurants, okay, then A is not the right answer. B, lack of rain. That's it. Lack of rain. And this word lack, some people read it as lake. It's not lake, it's lack. Lack of rain. So if the decline, the reason behind decline is lack of rain, then it is B. And if they say there is too much rain, but still they are declining, then it is not the right answer. Okay, now we've got option C, rise in building development locally. So what is the reason that some varieties of wild mushrooms, they are declining? Reason number A is demand from restaurants. Reason number B is lack of rain. And reason number C is rise in building development. What is building development? Housing societies. There are housing societies and that's why they are declining. Now let's see what's the reason.
there's been a decline in some varieties of wild mushrooms in this part of the country. Restaurants are becoming more interested in locally sourced food like wild mushrooms. But the biggest problem is that so many new houses have been built in this area in the last 10 years. And more water is being taken from rivers and reservoirs because of this, and mushroom habitats have been destroyed.
Mushroom habitats have been destroyed. So the reason is rise in building developments, option C. They did not talk about rain. Lack of rain, torrential rain and all that, they did not mention. And huge demand for them. Now see, they said restaurants are only interested in local mushrooms. Let's listen to it again. And the audio went like A, C, B.
There's been a decline in some varieties of wild mushrooms in this part of the country. Restaurants are becoming more interested in locally sourced food like wild mushrooms.
Okay, restaurants are only interested in locally sourced food like wild mushrooms. Now they say varieties of wild mushrooms are declining because there is. They did not mention it as a reason. They only mentioned that restaurants are interested in that, but that's not the reason. Now let's move on to option C.
But the biggest problem is that so many new...
Biggest problem. Got the word? Biggest problem. So what they say after that, that will be the reason.
Have been built in this area in locally sourced food like wild mushrooms. But the biggest problem is that so many new houses have been built in this.
Okay, biggest problem is so many new houses have been built in this area. So that is rise in building developments locally. And for those houses, they are using water from reservoir and from river.
Area in the last 10 years. And more water is being taken from rivers and reservoirs because of this, and mushroom habitats have been destroyed.
Okay, mushroom habitat have been destroyed, and the reason is housing. Question number 19, Dan says that when storing mushrooms, people should, when you store mushroom, what should you do? Okay, advice, people should do what? Option A, keep them in fridge for no more than 2 days. For no more than 2, they can say a couple of days, maximum 2 days, right? So store them in fridge for no more than 2 days, option A. Option B, keep them in brown bag in a dark room. Now brown bag, like paper bags are brown. Keep them in brown bag in a dark room. So if they should store in brown bag, dark room, option B. If they should store in fridge for no more than 2 days, then option A. And leave them for a period after washing them. Like after washing them, they should leave them for 30 minutes, for 20 minutes. Then it is option C. So let's see what is his advice to store mushrooms.
So, anyway, a word of advice on storing mushrooms. Collect them in a brown paper bag, and as soon as you get home, put them in the fridge. They'll be fine for a couple of days, but it's best to cook them as soon as possible. After washing them really carefully first, of course.
Okay, what is the first thing? He talked about all 3 options. You didn't check that. First he said put them in a brown bag, and then he said put it in the refrigerator. Okay, now brown bag, he did not mention dark room. He mentioned refrigerator. So correct answer is A. A. I tell you why. Listen, what did he say? He said put it in the brown bag. Got it? Now, if you put it in the brown bag and put it in the dark room, then correct answer is B. But he said put it in the brown bag and then put it in the refrigerator. He's come back to option A. And then he said couple of days. Couple of days means no more than 2 days. Now, then he came to option C. Leave them for a period after washing. He talked about washing. But he did not say that you should leave them for 20 minutes or 30 minutes after washing. So this option was not discussed. Now listen again.
Anyway, a word of advice on storing mushrooms. Collect them in a brown paper bag, and as soon as you get home, put them in the fridge.
Okay, brown paper bag. As soon as you get home, put them in the fridge.
They'll be fine for a couple of days.
They will be fine for a couple of days means no more than 2 days. Exactly. And now he's talking about washing.
But it'll be fine for a couple of days, but it's best to cook them as soon as possible. After washing them really carefully first, of course.
After washing them really carefully, but leave them for a period after washing, not mentioned. Got it? They are very chalak. Yeah, exactly. Like you say. Okay, let's go on. Question number 20. What does Dan say about trying new varieties of mushroom? Now, underline trying new varieties, and we know it's all about mushrooms. So what does he say? New varieties of mushroom. Experiment with different recipes. For different recipes, he will say you can make Russian salad, you can make pasta, you can make this, you can make that. So he will talk about some recipes. If he says you can experiment with different recipes like Chinese or Japanese or anything like that, then A will be the right answer. B, expect some to have a strong taste. Strong taste means sometimes which you cannot eat, right? So if he says expect some to have a strong taste, some means mushrooms. So you should expect that some mushrooms can be a little, bitter or anything like that. And option C, cook them for a long time. 2 hours in pressure cooker. That is long time. Like you do with head and trotter, city pie. Yeah? So, cook them for a long time. So, what does he say about new varieties of mushroom? When you have a new variety, the one you don't eat regularly.
So, everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like, right? Well, you'll be surprised by the huge variety of wild mushrooms there are. Be adventurous. They're great in so many dishes. Stir-fries, risottos, pasta. But just be aware that some people can react badly to certain varieties, so it's a good idea not to eat huge quantities to begin with.
Okay. Option A, no, C. C, well done. Who? No, who is C? Correct answer is A. Well done. Very good. C wala chor bhi to pakadna tha na. Yeah, then he becomes very yes. I am rat, class is wrong. Okay. Yeah. Correct answer is A. Experiment with different recipes. And he talked about stir fries, pasta, and this and that. Listen again.
So, everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like, right? Well,
Okay, everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like. Expect some to have a strong taste. Everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like. Strong or whatever.
you'll be surprised by the huge variety of wild mushrooms there are. Be adventurous. They're great in so many dishes. Stir-fries,
Okay, they are great in so many dishes. Stir fries,
risottos, pasta.
risottos, pasta, and all that. So what is that? Experiment with different recipes. And the stir fries, risotto, pasta, these are recipes actually. Okay? Good. Okay. Now, let's do Luddi. Again. Okay? Yeah. Which two opinions about Luddites do the students express? Two opinions about Luddites. Okay? Now, what will happen? They will express their opinion. Two opinions will match with out of 5 options, with 2 options, opinions will match. And with other 3 options, their opinion will be different. So where opinion matches, that will be the right answer. Where there is no match of opinion, that will be the wrong answer. Okay, let's see. Actions were ineffective. Now underline ineffective action. Means whatever they did, it had no, no effect. So whatever they did, there was no effect. For example, we have inflation. Now some people are saying we will do strike against inflation. Will that do anything? Electricity bills are high. Some people say we are doing strike, we will not pay the bills and all that. Will that benefit? So it means ineffective actions. So if actions have no results, they are ineffective actions. Option B, still influential today. Like Luddites are still influential today. Even today, there is some influence of them. So if there is some influence today, then it is option B. And if there is no influence now, with the history, their influence finished in the past, then B will not be the right answer. C. Now, we don't know what Luddites is. In the audio, they will tell you. And then you will understand it more. They have received unfair criticism. Underline unfair criticism. Now, if the criticism was fair, they were criticized rightly, then this will not be the answer. And if they were criticized for something they didn't do, then this is going to be this is not going to be the answer. If the criticism is fair, this is not the answer. And if the criticism is unfair, then this is the answer. Option D, they were proved right. So if they were proved right, this is the answer. If they were proved wrong, then this is not the answer. Attitude is understandable. Like whatever they did, for example, whatever they did, we understand. For example, when there is inflation, people don't have buying power, and you give them so high electricity bills and they come on roads, it is understandable. So if whatever their action was, if their attitude is understandable, this is the right answer. And if their attitude is so confusing, it's not understandable, one cannot expect that, then this will not be the right answer. So now let's see what is this Luddites and what are the right options.
Part 3. You will hear two business students discussing automation and the future of work.
That seminar yesterday on automation and the future of work was really good, wasn't it? Looking at the first industrial revolution in Britain in the 19th century and seeing how people reacted to massive change was a real eye-opener.
Yes. It was interesting to hear how people felt about automation then and what challenges they faced. I didn't know that first started with workers in the textile industry.
With those protesting workers called the Luddites destroying their knitting machines because they were so worried about losing their jobs.
Yes, and ultimately they didn't achieve anything. And anyway, industrialization created more jobs than it destroyed.
Yes, that's true. But it probably didn't seem a positive thing at the time. I can see why the Luddites felt so threatened.
I know. I'm sure I would have felt the same.
Okay. Tukka hi la de ho. Come on. Correct answer is? Okay, A and C, C and D, D and E. Okay, like, you should have a deal. I will say AB, you say CD, you say DE. Someone will be right in the class. Correct answer is option A. And second correct answer is option C. Wrong. E. E for elephant. A and E. I'll tell you why. Don't worry. Option A and option E. Now we do it again.
Part 3. You will hear two business students discussing automation and the future of work.
That seminar yesterday on automation and the future of work was really good, wasn't it? Looking at the first industrial revolution in Britain in the 19th century and seeing how people reacted to massive change was a real eye-opener.
Yes. It was interesting to hear how people felt about automation then and what challenges they faced. I didn't know that first started with workers in the textile industry.
With those protesting workers called the Luddites.
Okay, now from here you need to listen carefully. Those protesting workers called Luddites. Now.
Destroying their knitting machines because they were so worried about losing their jobs.
Okay, they destroyed their knitting machines because they were so worried about losing their jobs. Now listen, actions were ineffective or not? Listen.
Yeah.
Destroying their knitting machines because they were so worried about losing their jobs.
Yes, and ultimately they didn't achieve anything.
And ultimately they didn't achieve anything. So they destroyed knitting machines. What is it? Actions. And ultimately they didn't achieve anything. That is ineffective. So answer is A. Now let's go on.
And anyway, industrialization created more jobs than it destroyed.
Okay, industrialization created more jobs than it destroyed. They were proved right because they were afraid of losing their job. So what happened? Industrialization provided more jobs, so option D is wrong. I mean, they were not right. They were thinking that we will lose our jobs, but industrialization created more jobs, so they were wrong about it. Okay, let's go on.
Yes, that's...
Anything. And anyway, industrialization created more jobs than it destroyed.
Yes, that's true. But it probably didn't seem a positive thing at the time. I can see why the Luddites felt so threatened.
I know. I'm sure I would have felt the same.
I know, I would have felt the same. Their attitude is understandable. I know, I would have felt the same. The way they felt, I would have felt the same means their attitude. And what was that? Breaking their machines and thinking that they will lose the job. So their attitude is understandable. I felt the same. Correct answer A, E. And you can write it like 21A and 22E. E. Okay, questions 23 and 24. Last multiple choice question. Okay. Don't worry, after that, we don't have any other multiple choice questions. 23 and 24. Choose two letters. Which two predictions, underline two predictions, about future of work, underline future of work, are the students doubtful about, underline doubtful. Now, two predictions about future of work and the students are doubtful. Now, listen carefully. Where they say, I'm not sure, where they say perhaps, where they say maybe, right? So that is going to be the right answer. And where they say, I'm sure this will happen, or if they say, that is already happening, that is already happening, this has happened, this will happen, it means they are not doubtful. So the options which will be discussed with the phrases which express doubtfulness, those options will be the right one. What are the options? Work will be more rewarding, underline more rewarding. If he says, well, it is said the work will be more rewarding, but I'm not sure about that, let's see, it means they're doubtful. And he'll say, I know the work must be more rewarding and I'm sure about it. Then this is not the right answer. Right answer is where they are doubtful. Next, unemployment will fall. Now, what is unemployment will fall? There will be more employment opportunities. What does it mean? Unemployment will fall. Try to understand their mind. Unemployment will fall means people who are jobless, that number will fall. And for that, they may say there will be more employment opportunities. Okay, it's that. So if they say there will be more employment opportunities, it means option B. Option C, people will want to delay retiring. Now, if he says people will want to delay retiring age is, for example, what is retiring age? 60? 60 is retiring age. So people would like to retire after 60, like 65 or more, because of good health and all that. Now, if they are doubtful about it, then it is the right answer. But if they say it's already happening, it has already happened, and I'm sure it will happen, that people would delay their retirement, then it is like that. D, working hours will be shorter. Now, if working hours will be shorter and they are doubtful, for example, say, well, they say there will be short working hours. I don't know how. I'm not sure about that. I think it'll be something different. So then this is the right answer. Like wherever with the option they express doubt, that is the right answer. And where they express their definity, like they are sure about it, that's the wrong answer. And last, people will change jobs more frequently, from job A to job B to job C, C to D, and all that. So where they are doubtful, now focus their language. Yeah.
The discussion about the future of work was really optimistic for a change. I like the idea that work won't involve doing boring, repetitive tasks, as robots will do all that. Normally, you only hear negative stuff about the future.
Bit too optimistic, don't you think? For example, I can't see how people are about to have more leisure time when all the evidence shows people are spending longer than ever at work.
No, that's true. And what about lower unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
Perhaps in the long term, but not in the foreseeable future.
And I expect most people will be expected to work until they're much older, as everyone's living much longer.
That's already happening.
Okay, they mainly talked about option B, C, D. And for C, they said that's already happening. So it means they are actually sure about it. They are not doubtful. That is already happening. So correct answer is option D for doctor and option B for boy. B and D. Okay, let's just listen to it again.
The discussion about the future of work was really optimistic for a change. I like the idea that work won't involve doing boring, repetitive tasks, as robots will do all that.
Okay, work will involve boring, repetitive tasks. So work will be more rewarding? No, they said boring, repetitive tasks. Let's go on.
Normally, you only hear negative stuff about the future.
Bit too optimistic, don't you think? For example, I can't see how people are about to have more leisure time
I can't see how people are going to have more leisure time. More leisure time means working hours will be shorter. When working hours will be shorter, then people will have more. He says, I can't see.
When all the evidence shows people are spending longer than ever at work.
When all the evidence shows people are spending longer at work. So it means he is doubtful about it.
No, that's true.
No, that's true. Means they are doubtful about it. Okay? Just focus this part.
Optimistic, don't you think? For example, I can't see how people are about to have more leisure time when all the evidence shows people are spending longer than ever at work.
No, that's true. And what about lower unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
What about lower unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
Perhaps in the long term.
Perhaps in the long term. Means they are doubtful about it. Okay? And about people want to delay retiring?
But not in the foreseeable future.
And I expect most people will be expected to work until they're much older, as everyone's living much longer.
That's already happening.
That's already happening. So they are not doubtful about it. It's already happening. Okay? Okay guys, now let's do something even more interesting. Okay, now we have got questions 25 to 30. In actual exam, you never know. You can get this level of difficulty, even beyond that, or even less than that. Sometimes listening test is very simple, straightforward, and students enjoy that test. Simple, straightforward means there are less multiple choice questions. Like part 1, one word only. Part 2, single multiple choice with map or with sentence completion. Part 3, some multiple choice and then there is matching. And part 4, one word only, then they are happy. But if there are more multiple choice questions in IELTS listening, that test will be complicated. Okay, so the test depends on the type of questions, and the most confusing question type in IELTS listening is only multiple choice. Single, double, even we have triple multiple choice. We have tetra multiple choice. Out of 8 options, you select 4, but that's not very common. Out of 6 options, you select 2, that's not very common. The common one is single multiple choice and double multiple choice. Now we are going to learn how to deal with matching type of questions. You've got to match 2 things. Sometimes it can be books with comments. Sometimes it can be movies with review and all that. Okay. All right. What comment do the students make about each of the following jobs? Can you see the jobs? Questions 25 to 30. Now tell me one thing. If you are given half minute to read the questions, would you read questions 25 to 30 or would you try to read comments? Comments. Because questions are straightforward. In the audio, they will say, first of all, let's talk about accountants. Secondly, I would like to talk about hairdressers. So there is no information in the questions. All the information is in comments. Now, let's read the comments. These jobs are likely to be at risk. Underline at risk. What does it mean? People may lose their job. When people may lose their job means their job is at risk. When something is at risk, you may lose it. Okay? Option B, their role has become more interesting in recent years. Underline role and more interesting. So one job, for example, job of accountant, job of hairdresser, now their role is more interesting. Like for more interesting, they would say in the past it used to be a boring job. What does it mean? Now it is interesting. Okay. Option C, number of people working in this sector has fallen dramatically. For example, hairdressers. There used to be many hairdressers, but now they are just few. For example, so number of people and fallen dramatically. For fallen dramatically, they will say it used to be 25% in the past, but now it's less than 3%. Now 25 and less than 3 means they actually fallen dramatically. Fallen means fell. Like second form is fell, means to decrease. Next, This job will require more qualification. Underline more qualification. For this, they will say, for this type of job, you will have to do a diploma after your graduation. Diploma is more qualification. Or you will need a certificate after your studies to become a hairdresser. So certificate, diploma, that means more qualifications. Option E. Higher disposable income has led to huge increase in jobs. Now, what is higher disposable income? Means people are earning more money. People have more money as compared to the past, and because of this, now people have money to spend, so huge increase in job. Like because of people's buying power or people having more money, this job has become more popular, right? Next, there is likely to be a significant rise, underline significant rise in demand. So significant rise in demand means the demand for hairdressers will increase. The demand for agricultural workers will increase. Okay? Next, both employment and productivity have risen. Now, what is employment? Employment means employees, and productivity means their efficiency. So if they say employment, there are more employment opportunities and now they are much more efficient. Efficiency means productivity, and like there are more opportunities, that means employment and productivity both have increased. Okay, now what will you do? This hand will go to question number 25. This hand holding pencil will move from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you see what's the right answer. Okay, so let's make a start.
I enjoyed all that stuff on how technology has changed some jobs and how they're likely to change in the near future.
Yeah, incredible. Like accountants. You might think all the technological innovations would have put them out of a job, but in fact there are more of them than ever. They're still really in demand and have become far more efficient.
Right, that was amazing. 20 times more accountants in this country compared to the 19th century.
I know.
More in demand and they are more efficient. Option? No. More in demand and they are more efficient. That is option G. Exactly. Both employment. Employment means more in demand, and productivity, more efficient. Okay, so correct answer is G. Please listen to it again.
I enjoyed all that stuff on how technology has changed some jobs and how they're likely to change in the near future.
Yeah, incredible. Like accountants. You might think all the technological innovations would have put them out of a job, but in fact there are more of them than ever.
There are more of them than ever.
They're still really in demand and have become far more efficient.
They are still in demand and become far more efficient. Okay. Question number 26, hairdressers.
I'd never have thought the demand for hairdressing would have gone up so much in the last 100 years. One hairdresser for every 287 people now, compared to one for over 1,500.
Yeah, because people's earning power has gone up so they can afford to spend more on personal services like that.
But technology hasn't changed the actual job that much.
No, they've got hairdryers, etc. But it's one job where you don't depend on a computer.
Okay, people's earning more money. Option E, higher disposable income has led to a huge increase in job. So 26, option is E. Just focus this sentence.
I'd never have thought the demand for hairdressing would have gone up so much in the last 100 years. One hairdresser for every 287 people now, compared to one for over 1,500.
Yeah, because people's earning power has gone up so they can afford to spend...
Okay, people's earning power has gone up and they can afford. So higher income and huge increase in jobs means now there are more hairdressers as compared to the past. 27, administrative staff.
The kind of work that administrative staff do has changed enormously, thanks to technology. Even 20 years ago, there were secretaries doing dictation and typing.
Yes, really boring compared to these days, when they're given much more responsibility and higher status.
Okay, really boring as compared to these days. Option B, their role has become more interesting in recent years. In the past, their job was boring, but now it's interesting. Question number 28, agricultural workers.
I'd expected there to be a much bigger change in the number of agricultural workers in the 19th century, but the 1871 census showed that roughly 25% of the population worked on the land.
Yeah, I'd have assumed it would be more than 50%. Now it's less than 0.2%.
It was 25% and now it's less than 0.3%, means number of people working in the sector has fallen dramatically. Like from 25%, not means 0 point something. It's really dramatic. Okay, question number 29, care workers.
What about care workers?
They barely existed in the 19th century, as people's lifespan was so much shorter. But now, of course, this sector will see huge growth.
Yeah, and it's hard enough to meet current demand.
Okay, this sector, huge growth and hard to meet current demand means likely to be a significant rise in demand for this service, care workers. Last, bank clerks.
The future looks quite bleak for bank clerks. They've been in decline since ATMs were introduced in the 80s.
And technology will certainly make most of the jobs they do now redundant, I think.
I agree. Although the situation may change, it's very hard to predict what will happen.
Technology will make many of the jobs they do redundant. Option A, these jobs are likely to be at risk. Technology will make their jobs redundant. Redundant means they will not be required, right? Instead of them, there'll be technology, okay? Okay, now we move on to part 4. And part 4 will provide you another opportunity to come back to the game. Coming back to the game means if part 3 is rough and tough, part 4 will give you an opportunity to get maximum score to improve your overall bench score. Okay? Now, complete the notes below and write one word only. No number, nothing else, one single word will be the answer. And part 4 is a lecture. In part 4, there is always a lecture. That lecture is delivered by one person, and the context or theme of the lecture is based on some sort of educational thing, science, research, technology, and all that. What's the title here? Space Traffic Management. What does it mean? How to manage space traffic. I mean, all the spaceships that are going to Moon, Mars, and all that, how to manage their traffic and all that. So the topic is quite tricky. But remember, they do not expect you to be technical. I mean, if someone is taking IELTS for immigration, he's got nothing to do with space traffic system. So they will instruct you all these things. They will only see your ability to understand these things or not. It's going to be a lecture. Lecture means learning. So they will teach you all these things. So don't worry, the topic is space traffic management. I don't know about that. Now, let's go on. Space traffic management system, and in the first bullet point, there is no question, but they have written air traffic control. So when they talk about air traffic control, it means they are there. Now, question 31, would aim. For that, they can use the word our main aim is. Our chief purpose is, what we want to do. Our main aim is to set up legal and dash ways. Now, this is very simple. They've already used the word legal. With legal, after and, whatever they are going to use, that will be your answer. Okay? Very simple. Now, what will they do? How will they cheat you? They will cheat you, they will add a word with legal. And that word will, legal is what? Legal is, if they say, for example, legal procedure. Now, legal procedure does not mean answer is procedure, because for procedure, they have used the word ways. So if they say, well, our main aim is to find some legal procedure and also Now whatever they say after and also, that will be your answer. Warning is any synonym of ways. Ways can be procedure, ways can be systems, ways can be methods. Any synonym of ways will not be the answer. Okay, let's see.
Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture for astronomy students about the need for a system to manage satellites and other objects orbiting the Earth.
In today's astronomy lecture, I'm going to talk about the need for a system to manage the movement of satellites and other objects in orbit around the Earth. In other words, a space traffic management system. We already have effective air traffic control systems that are used internationally to ensure that planes navigate our skies safely. Well, space traffic management is a similar concept, but focusing on the control of satellites. The aim of such a system would be to prevent the danger of collisions in space between the objects in orbit around the Earth. In order to do this, we'd need to have a set of legal measures, and we'd also have to develop the technical systems to enable us to prevent such accidents. But unfortunately, at present, we don't actually have a space traffic management system that works.
Okay, so legal measures and technical. Well done. What will be the answer? Technical. Measures came with legal. Measures will not be the answer. Legal measures, at the same time technical system. So answer is technical. And in part 4, answers are very simple words. Simple words like technical and all that. Now we go on to question number 32. Problems in developing effective space traffic management. What are the problems which they have in developing effective space management? Satellites are now quite dash, something related to satellites. Underline now quite. For now they can use the word these days. For now they can use the word at present. For now they can use the word currently. And for quite they may use the word very. For example, if they say common, so they say at present satellites are very common. At present satellites are extremely common. At present satellites can be seen everywhere or something like that. Okay, now please listen, and the synonym of now and quite will give you the answer.
So why not? What are the problems in developing such a system? Well, for one thing, satellites are relatively cheap these days compared with how they were in the past.
Satellites are relatively cheap these days. Now relatively means quite, and these days means now. So answer is cheap. Good. Next, for example, question number 33. For example, there are constellations made up of. Now underline made up. The synonym of made up will give you the answer. And for made up, they can use the word consisting. Consist of, consisting. So constellations consist of dash of satellites. Dash of satellites. Okay, so let's see. Consisting, and whatever they say after that, dash of satellites.
Meaning that more people can afford to put them into space. So there's a lot more of them out there. And people aren't just launching single satellites, but whole constellations, consisting of thousands of them designed to work together. So space is getting more crowded every day.
Consisting of thousands of them. Now what happened? For satellites, they use the word them. This is called referencing. First they use the word satellites, and then they said consisting of thousands of them. So answer is thousands, plural. Thousands. Thousands. Thousands of satellites. Okay. Question number 34. At present, satellites are not required to transmit information to help with their dash. Now, satellites are not required to transmit information to help with something. So satellites don't need to transmit information to help with what? Focus. Okay, now please listen and answer question number 34.
But in spite of this, one thing you may be surprised to learn is that you can launch a satellite into space, and once it's out there, it doesn't have to send back any information to Earth to allow its identification.
To allow its identification. So to help with their identification, to allow its identification. Right? Answer is identification. Question number 35. There are few systems for dash satellites. Now they will say there are many systems for dash, but there are just few systems, or they can say there are a couple of systems for. Now for means answer maybe if it is a verb, it's going to be ing form. For example, there are few systems for searching satellites. For searching satellites. Okay? There are few systems for sending satellites. Sending, searching, looking, anything like that.
So while we have international systems for ensuring we know where the planes in our skies are, and to prevent them from colliding with one another, when it comes to the safety of satellites, at present we don't have anything like enough proper ways of tracking them. And it isn't just
ways of tracking them. Now please encircle for and write there off. OF off. So for tracking satellites, proper ways of tracking them. Off tracking and for tracking. So answer is tracking. Okay, next bullet point without a question. 36. Operators may be unwilling to share details of satellites. Now imagine satellites and their operators, and operators are not willing to share details of their satellites used for. Used for means purpose. Now there are two purposes. One is commercial and second purpose will be our answer. So operators are not willing to share the details of their satellites which are used for. One is commercial, and with commercial, second purpose will be a right answer.
a greater threat is the huge amount of space debris in orbit around the Earth, broken bits of satellite and junk from space stations and so on. And some of these are so small that they can be very hard to identify, but they can still be very dangerous. In addition, some operators may be unwilling to share information about the satellites they've launched. For example, a satellite may be designed for military purposes, or it may have been launched for commercial reasons, and the operators don't want competitors to have information about it.
Okay, military purposes and then commercial purposes and all that. So correct answer is military. Good. Okay, let's go on. Question number 37. It may be hard to collect details of the objects dash. As we are talking about satellites, so it may be hard to collect details of objects at a given time. So at a given time means immediately we cannot collect details about one satellite's dash. Now satellites what? Apostrophe S should be focused.
And even if the operators are willing to provide it, the information isn't easy to collect. Details are needed about the object itself, as well as about its location.
Details are needed for object itself as far as about its location. So for object they use the word it. For example, over here they've used the word objects and then they use the word its location. Its location means object's location, and answer is location. Question number 38. Scientists can only make a dash about where the satellites will go. Now scientists can make something about where satellite will go. For example, scientists can only make a map where satellites will go.
And remember that a satellite isn't very big, and it's likely to be moving at thousands of kilometers an hour. We don't have any sensors that can constantly follow something moving so fast. So all that the scientists can do is to put forward a prediction concerning where the satellite is heading next.
Okay, they can put forward a prediction. So, make a prediction, put forward a prediction, answer is prediction. Okay, question number 39, solution. One solution is presentation of information. Second solution, information should be combined in one. Now, encircle the word one and write there single. For example, information should be combined in one unit. For one unit, for one they will use the word single unit, unique unit, a single, unique. So whatever they say after a single, unique, that will be your answer.
So those are some of the problems that we're facing. Let's consider now some of the solutions that have been suggested. One key issue is the way in which information is dealt with. We need more information, but it also needs to be accessible at a global level. So we need to establish shared standards that we can all agree on for the way in which this information is presented. We already do this in other areas of science, so although this is a challenge, it's not an impossible task. Then as all this information's collected, it needs to be put together so it can be used. And that will involve creating a single database on which it can be entered.
Okay, a single database on which it can be entered. So answer is database. Answer is? Yeah, good. Question number 40. A coordinated system must be designed to create, underline to create. For create, they can use the word develop. To create something, to develop something, to make something, build, and all that. So coordinated system must be designed to create dash in its users, underline users. And for users, they sometimes say people who use it. People who use means users. Okay? So,
as we continue to push forward new developments, congestion of the space environment is only going to increase. To cope with this, we need to develop a system like the one I've described to coordinate the work of the numerous spacecraft operators. But it's also essential that this system is one that establishes trust in the people that use it, both nationally and at a global level.
Establishes trust. Now, what is the word for create? Establish. Create trust means establishes trust and all that. Okay? So, that's it. Part 4 is not as tricky, huh? That's why try to target 10 by 10 in part 1 and 10 by 10 in part 2. And then in the middle, you can have a couple of mistakes, 4 or 5 mistakes. And still, if you get 35 correct answers, that will give you 8 band. Right? Thank you.